Hello and welcome to Super Rugby Round 11 review, and I have managed to get Steve to be quiet long enough that I can actually start the show, which is good. So good evening, Steve. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me back on to chat about the weekend. I've tried to remember as much as I can, and amazingly, I watched every game again. It's the perks of being on holiday from work, and it ends now, sadly.
Oh, no. You watched every game live. Oh, my word.
Yeah. I mean, come on. That Highlanders game was so worth staying up for. That was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I didn't know that beforehand, though, did we? Hey, come on. It's not like... anyway, so... dearie me. That's you can't just go, oh yeah, it's going to be a great game. Not every game's a great game. There was some games are good, but hey, there we go. Cool. So anyway, yes, hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. Your favorite place for rugby predictions and opinions and all that kind of stuff. You know the kind of drill. And we are going to be going through all the games tonight. So let's kick off. Oh yeah, for those of you on the podcast, 5-star reviews, please. Love them to bits. We actually got one the other week. Yay! It's been a while. Other stars are available, but why would you want to? Hey. So we kicked off on Friday night with Hurricanes versus the Sunwolves. I had the Hurricanes down for 20. How many do you have? What was your prediction? Can you remember?
Hey, I'll tell you what. Before we really get into this, my weekend of Super Brew was utterly fantastic. There's 6 games, right? 3 of them, I'm trying to remember what it was now, but I'm pretty sure 3 of them I missed out the exact margin by 1 point, and the other one was the stupid Stormers that scored a try after 80 minutes when I had the margin exactly right, and then they went and scored a try and I was out by 7. Almost the perfect, and the Reds, of course. We're not going to talk about that too much. Perfect weekend was great. So whatever the margin was, I was out by 1. It was a game from the Sunwolves like we seen last week, wasn't it, against the Crusaders? They were passionate. They were into it. They were playing at a decent level as well. And actually this time, instead of starting really slowly and getting blown away straight off the whistle, they actually competed right from the outset and led the game for a little while as well. So it's good to see the Sunwolves coming into it. Hurricanes, though, obviously always going to be too strong. And yeah, I think I picked them to win handsomely, and they did in the end. But like I said last week, it's really good to see the Sunwolves team performing up to a good level. That is, Super Rugby level, to see that you're not going to be 100% confident that they're going to lose every game like we have been over the last couple of years.
And yeah, that's for a little sneak alert for everyone for tomorrow night. One of the questions will be, when are the Sunwolves going to get their first win in the season? So we'll be talking about that on Hash Rugby Chat tomorrow night, and we'll go through all of that stuff. The Sunwolves doing this for the first half hour. They got the first try. Julian Surveyor then evened things up. It's been a while since Julian's gone over the whitewash. That was quite good to see. But Arso is playing some fantastic rugby, isn't he?
Yeah, the referee had a bit of a vendetta against him. Or wasn't this the match that had the TMO, who just absolutely ruined everything in this game as well? I just about forgot to mention that. He was just about a joke, that guy.
The TMO making sure we had the correct calls for a lot of things, and yes, we had some disallowed tries.
Wouldn't you say that some of the things that he called out and went back on were very trivial? And at point, you'd say maybe didn't deserve to even be a penalty if they were seen in the first place, let alone calling back all these phases backwards to what actually happened. I thought it was a bit marginal on what he was doing, but it was almost involved more than the referee. Might as well just chuck the referee out the window and just had this TMO guy on the big screen just being like, check, no, stop the game. And someone else could blow a big whistle over the PA system at the stadium and it'll be right. But it was a dominant factor of that game, and it was talked about more than the actual match itself, that the TMO's involvement in it. And yes, the results obviously doesn't lend itself to a big conversation because it was an expected win by the Hurricanes. But, things like that, just that they can tar the performance of the match.
They can do. I mean, as you say, Arso got disallowed 2 tries. He scored 2 late on. It was interesting the Sunwolves choose early on to go to the corner, but then chose to kick points to get back in the lead again. But no, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole of blaming the TMO.
I'm not blaming him. I just think he was involved too much. If it's something really bad, then yeah, you do your little TMO, check, go back, whatever, Roger, get on your little walkie-talkie. But I mean, little minimal things. He was just getting a bit too involved, I think, and made too much of a scene about it from the game, from the aspect of the match.
So when we talk about minimal things, you're talking about things like forward passes, right?
Depends on the level of it.
Go on, just say yes. Just say yes, please.
No,
just
because
say yes.
a blatant forward pass, sure, is a blatant forward pass, but it's. I don't think the forward pass. But there's some other things he pulled back on that whether the margin even penalties or not has to be asked. Whether they were.
Well, because two of these were disallowed for forward passes, and you're complaining about the TMO. Let's go back a few years, shall we, to a Rugby World Cup quarter-final.
There was more that he went back on than forward passes. I'm not just talking about the tries. I'm talking about every 5 minutes that he wanted to check something. But yes, for sure. Blatant. That was blatant.
Yeah, because New Zealand didn't complain about Wayne Barnes missing a forward pass for the next 8 years, did they? Of course not. But the TMO should just ignore those sort of things and let play go on. I understand where you're coming from, Steve. Totally.
I think it depends on what it affects and what it actually the outcome of the overall sort of thing is. But it's kind of like you see the fly halves, grabbing that ball and running back to the 22 as fast as they can to try and take the conversion. It's because they know it's suspicious if they do stuff like that.
I agree. That is definitely very suspicious. They do that kind of thing. We do. We don't really want that going on too much. But there are times when I'll go quick. Drop, pedal, drop kick, drop kick.
They can take a drop goal. I think there's some of them don't realise, if you screw on the sticks, you can take a drop goal. You don't have to place it on the tee. You can just smack it over.
You can. That is true.
I must probably see that soon. New tactic.
Oh dear. So where were we? Half time, 21-10. And then Geordie got a try early in the second half, and that basically killed the game off after that. Other notable things, as Andre said in the live chat, the scoreline flattered the Hurricanes, and it did because the scoreline sort of got blown out in that last 10 minutes with 3 tries in the last 10 minutes. So it wasn't as big as this, but it was the kind of 28-10 kind of scoreline was about right. So a good sort of 3-score lead. Other big thing, Naimola Scudder is back.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that good to see?
It is good to see him back. Yeah, he's a quality player, and unfortunately, his career so far has been quite marred by injury. But I mean, he's got a tough job, doesn't he? He's got a tough job to get back into that back line. It is a highly quality back line with big names that ride the pine in that team, especially when you've got Lamb who's scoring tries for fun, Savia who's the desperate man to make it back to a black jersey. Will he? Won't he? Not today. But then you've got Naimola Scudder coming into the team as well. And 3 don't fit to 1, and 3 worthily should be in that starting lineup. But where do you fit them in? It's a glory of riches, isn't it, for the Hurricanes franchise?
It is, and I'm going to say now, also needs to make it into the All Blacks, but he's not going to, is he? He is, to me, the standout player out of that thing. I mean, people talk about Ben Lamb, sure. He's been on the end of a lot of stuff. He's chosen some pace. He's scored some tries. But also, to me, has really been one of the guys who stands right out in all this kind of stuff. Just some stats, because I am the stat man, and I've got to carry on. I've got to have a talk about some of these sort of stuff. Just to show the different style and effectiveness of the teams. Meters made 579 by the Highlanders. That's a big number.
By the Hurricanes.
By the Hurricanes, even.
Before someone rips you to pieces, yep.
By the Hurricanes, oh, dear me. It's only Monday and it's been a long week already. 297 metres by the Sunwolves. So the Sunwolves made nearly half, or just over half of the metres made, but carries 103 for the Hurricanes, 126 for the Sunwolves. So they kept it quite narrow. They did a lot of bashing it up, and whereas the Hurricanes, God. They both begin with H, okay? They're both from New Zealand. They both wear different coloured jerseys. It's nearly the same. Anyway, so with that, I think we should move on to the next game. Otherwise, I'm just going to butcher who I'm talking about again, unless you've got any final points.
Yeah, just to further on what you're saying there, the position and territory tells a pretty big story on the sides of that. With the second half, the Sunwolves really did own the possession territory of that game and really kind of dominated the match at that point as well. But they weren't making the yards. They weren't finishing their chances. That obviously is something they've got to work on, and to become that, decent competitive side, they've got to fix it up. But to get to that sort of position, we talk about again, they managed to keep their own ball. They kept it for a lot of phases, and they did that sort of stuff very well. So, yeah, it's good for the Sunwolves. Overall, I think, again, they showed that they can be competitive against the better sides in the competition.
Yeah, and I think they're going to come away from New Zealand with their reputation enhanced, especially amongst the New Zealand public, which is good to see. Because that's not, they and Jaguares have both taken a bashing, saying, "Oh, they shouldn't be in this tournament." So that kind of stuff is also very good as well. So yeah, scary to think the All Blacks' third, fourth, and fifth choice wings would probably be the first choice for most of the Test play nations. Yep, that's true. But that's true every year, so I don't bother. There's nothing there to talk about really. Stormers versus Rebels next up. Now I didn't stay up for this one, but you did apparently. I had the Stormers to win this one. I think you probably did as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the main talking point about this game for me has got to be the jerseys. Why?
I don't find that much of a real issue because the Stormers are quite predominantly white.
Blue.
But they were wearing their away strip, I'm pretty sure. It was more predominantly white than it was blue. But I didn't notice it too big of a deal. I've seen a lot worse when it comes to kick clashes. But, yeah, I mean, yeah. That wasn't the big talking point to me. The talking point was more how bad the Rebels are and just how average they look. After looking quite exciting and quite prominent in the competition, and now they just look so average. And we talked about it last week, all about the effect of Genia and how he can carry the team and how his presence on the field is so important. Nah, not this week. No, he got completely outplayed, I think, by Divanaka.
He wasn't on the pitch.
He didn't play at all.
No.
Oh, well, there you go. That's why I didn't even see him.
He's not even in South Africa. He's in Australia.
Well, there you go. Not even there. Didn't even notice him.
So, without Genia,
I was more focused on the Stormers for this game, to be honest with you, because they controlled everything on the game. The Rebels went nowhere. I hardly even noticed the Rebels in that match at all.
And that's because their kit looked the same as the Stormers. But but yeah, no, it's some really poor things. The first Stormers tried, Delende went through, was not tackled, and was basically just let through. And if you're going to only make 74% of your tackles, then against players like Delende who are going to bash it up, you're in for a long night, and that's what happened. In that first half, the Stormers had the upper hand in possession of territory. They made the most of it and scored the points. Second half, according to the stats anyway, the Rebels had more territory in possession, but didn't really do anything with it. And it really is, they are missing Genia big time. And also their scrum just disintegrated in this game as well, didn't it? They only won 5 out of 9 of their own scrums. That is, if you're going to go to South Africa and not scrum, you're in for a long game.
Yeah, but I think you've got to credit some of that to the Stormers, though, because they have the pretty decent pack, and especially, well, I mean, they've got Springboks in that front row. Stephen Kitshoff is no slouch. Yes, sure, he's not the best in the world, but if you're not going to be performing up to a decent level, he will put you away, and he's a decent sort of player. And given that opportunity, like I said, they're pretty average. Last few weeks, they have been relatively average, and they just weren't on that level. And they weren't in most of that game throughout it. And they just were outplayed. Key players, key positions. Willemse, again, I'll talk about him because I think he's just a fantastic little player. Was great.
Oh, that second try.
The massive pass?
The massive pass. He's kind of like, he's in the middle of the pitch. In fact, he's slightly over to the right-hand side and seems to pass it all the way to the left touch line. Well, that's a slight exaggeration, but he passed it nearly halfway across the pitch for someone to score. Great vision to know where the space is, and fantastic. Yeah, I can't pass it that far. Again, I'm just a skinny white guy. But anyway, he put in that great long pass, and very impressed with him with that. There was some symmetry about the two Rebels tries. They took 17 phases each time to get over. 17 phases. Oh my word, that was just nice ball retention. Congratulations, well done. But when you're 17-6 behind In fact, they were further behind that, weren't they? Then basically forget it. You're not going to, if you're going to be taking 17 phases over scoring, you're going to run out of time, even if you do get the upper hand. There was no chance.
And that's what I mean. That's the only positive they can take, and that's probably all they should be taking from the game. They held on to the ball for a while, but like you said earlier, when you talk about the possession states and that, they didn't do anything with it. To be fair, it's almost like the Sunwolves are a bit more explosive with all that position they had in the second half versus the Canes than we've seen from the Rebels, who just they seem out of ideas, or they seem a bit flat, or just getting shut down in their areas. I'm not really too sure, but I guess when you got that halves combination with Debrasini in there, there's probably not much creativity going on through that brain anyway.
Oh, harsh. Oh, dearie me. I'll call people not very creative, but I won't talk about what's going through their brain. Wow, we're going really overboard tonight. Watch out, folks. Players going to get shredded this evening. And talking about shredding players,
that Rebels backline though, this is what is kind of absurd about this team though. It's got some decent quality level Australian players in it, which just makes it even more stranger how none of these guys. And I think I was talking about quite a bit on Twitter over the weekend too about Australian rugby in general. How the brain space isn't there right in the players, and they're not making the right decisions. They're not choosing the right options, and they're just doing maybe the easier thing. To put someone else in the wheelie bin, as it would be so called, just to try and avoid the conflict going on to them instead. But like you've got guys in there that are decent Australian talents, but not taking the responsibility for their team.
Yeah, no, there's definitely the talent in Australia to put together a decent team, a decent Wallabies side. But as you say, do they have the nous, the motivation to nail it? And that's questionable. So anything else on that one, or can we move on to and shred some Lions players next?
No, I'll just shred the Australian players, to be fair. But no, I'm impressed with Stormers. I like the Stormers. I think they've been pretty good this year. Others may disagree, but I see the potential in that team. Some good players, good up and comers as well. I like watching them play. The Williamses, Dylan Lades, guys like that, I think can definitely create this or shape this team into be a very good one over the coming years.
No, true, and that was my real big concern about the Stormers pre-season was the inexperience in the halfbacks, and I've been proved wrong. And I think you might have just read Andre's comment there. Do you want to read it out?
Andre says the Rebels wouldn't beat Southland at the moment. They've gone down the drain. Well, it might be a close one. But we're definitely looking at single digits on that scoreline, maybe 6-3.
Go the Stags. Go the Stags.
Go the Stags, yeah. Definitely. Pre-season training's underway.
Drinking training, maybe. For the supporters. Oh, dear me. I've lost track where we were now.
I think we're moving on to the mixed match.
Are we? Another game? Okay. Reds versus the Lions. No, I had the Lions by 10 for this one, and didn't I get shown up? Reds 27-21 win in the end. That makes it sound close. But the first thing I had to do when I was putting down my key stats system was basically 48 minutes, 27-0. This was all over way before the end, even though it sounds relatively close.
Yeah, it was way over before half time, really. The Rebels only up to Rebels. Oh no. Now I'm doing what you're doing. The Reds. It begins with R. They both begin with R and they're Australian. See, I was doing what you're doing now. The Reds.
Sorry, I've been corrected by Brent. 27-22. Apparently not 27-21. Let's get the facts right there. There we go.
Didn't even notice that. But yeah, I think I forgot my train of thought now what I was going to say about that match. The Reds, yes, 3 points is all they scored in the second half. So all their points coming first half, coming thick and fast and coming in a big way while the Lions were just asleep. They were dozing in the background and they took a long time to wake up. I think 55 or 57 minutes for their first try. And they dominated the second half. But the Reds knew that they had one thing to do in that game in the second half, and that was just tackle like they have not tackled before. I think their pack showed up a bit more than they had probably in the last couple of weeks where the team had started to go downhill a little bit. So definitely a bit more passion, a bit more desire, I think was the big thing for them. Desperation, you may even call it, for the team. So a lot better performance from them overall. You got to point out, what was his name? Hamish Stewart, 20 years old. He didn't have a brilliant game, wasn't fantastic, but solid overall. And for a 20-year-old, I thought he took that game very, very well. And George Smith, he's back. The old man of the tonic to Australian rugby, just about coming back again. So, a bit of experience. And I think that's what, especially that pack, definitely helps them because it's very young. I think 9 out of that 23 starting squad were under 23 years old. Something along those lines. So very, very young team. But,
11, but yes, it's a very young team.
Yeah, something along those lines.
And Brad Thorne's doing a good job with them. They got a couple of tries in early, which helped, and then it started raining, and that always goes. If you're 10-0 up, and it starts raining, that's obviously puts you in the box seat, and that helped them. Andre mentions the mistakes in the Lions, and yes, 20 turnovers by the Lions compared to 14 by Queensland. But it was all over in that first half. And I noted on my match notes, because this was one of the ones I did watch, watch live, sorry. 14 tackles made out of 28 attempts in that first half by the Lions. And that is appalling. Only making half your tackles, you're lucky to only be down by 21 points, whatever it was at half time. 24 points, sorry. And they only got back into it with the line-out mauls in that second half, because in the first half both line-outs were just all over the shop. This was a spirited performance by the Reds, but hardly a error-free and flowing and great performance by them. They still were making plenty of errors too.
Yeah, like I said, it's desperation. I think it just got to a point where they just wanted that more. And I think you probably could go into it and say that the Lions maybe thinking, yep, Waratahs, they were our big task on tour. They were our number one hit. If we can take those guys out, we'll cruise. The Reds come out, they were much more hungry for the match. And yeah, the Lions are just feel not awake, and they just paid the price ultimately for it. But yeah, they did come back in the second half, which I guess, for a coaching setup that's probably gone under a lot of criticism for not being up to that top level, or maybe not delivering the Lions where they should be. They did turn the team around a bit, and they did come back into it. And if they had another 10 minutes, you'd say the Lions would have won that game.
Well, yeah, maybe, but they did leave it far too late to come back. Definitely for that one. Malcolm line-out throwing needs attention. He's basically a flanker, he reckons. Needs to work on the fundamentals of being a 2, maybe so. There are a number of flankers that have made the move to hooker nowadays, which is interesting. There's up in Wasps, we've got one. I've gone blank. Johnson with the big hair.
Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson. There we go.
Yes.
So that was, and also one of the players that was playing for Seattle. For Glendale at the weekend as well in the MLR. But there you go.
It's kind of a hooker's role now, isn't it? These days, they are more of a running. Kind of like another flanker, really, in that forward pack. They're not just, Sean Fitzpatrick hooker is long gone. They don't exist anymore. They're much more evolved and adapted to this modern style of rugby.
Yeah, and Marks is the leading turnover specialist in Super Rugby.
Number 7 on him.
Exactly.
Or 6 in South Africa. Sorry,
6.
Gone the wrong way. Yep.
6, 7. Hey. It's not the number on your back. It's the role you have in the team that matters.
Tell your kids, is it?
They are pro coaching tips from the DrivingMaul there. That goes down along with the other ones in the past of the way for to play with David McKenzie is to pass the ball behind him so that he has to play from broken play.
Unfortunately, we won't get to talk about him today.
We won't, but we will get to talk about Let's Get Physical and the Blues, which comes up next. So, coaching tip for Tanamanga recently was obviously that they should be playing Let's Get Physical in the changing room straight from before the game starts, because that's what they lack initially. In this one, to be fair to them, they were physical. They made their tackles. They really stood up. The Jaguares should have, and they won this one by 13 points to 20, but this could easily have been a 13 points to 40 or 35-40 scoreline if the Blues hadn't put in the defensive display they did do.
Yeah, I think the weather played a lot of part in this game as well. into the hands of really how the Jaguares play? Did it allow them to probably play the style of play that they want to, more than adapting to the New Zealand conditions or the New Zealand environment that they are in? So I think that helped definitely for them. But the Blues tackled a lot. They're chasing the game a lot as well. But I mean, this Jaguares team has definitely changed a lot. They love the tour. They love New Zealand. Bring them over here more often. It makes you wonder, how will the Pumas go when they come over here for the well, it's even called the Quad Nations now, the Four Nations, the Rugby Championship. Bring that back, and when they come over here, it could be interesting, couldn't it? If you see likes these guys, the Boffellis and that pack, this could be a really interesting season of rugby for Argentina. But yeah, I think they played well. They come back, they beat the Blues in an area they could beat them. They beat them in an area that they could control, being in that sort of wet weather. And I mean, the Blues are pretty woeful, aren't they? They just, no, discipline as well is another thing I want to talk about in this game. We talk about the Jaguares always being poorly disciplined. Okay. How about your Blues?
You've got to talk about all sorts of things there and not giving me any right to reply at all. Things like the Blues were chasing this game. They were leading 13-10 up until 53 minutes. They were
not the latter parts, though.
Oh, yeah, okay, fine. The last 20 minutes they were losing, but they weren't chasing it all game. They should have been. But anyway, so they did get ahead. But I mean, clean breaks, 1 for the Blues, 3 for the Jaguares, show that this was a tight defensive game at the end of the day. Okay, discipline. All right, let me have a quick look at the stats. It's not one of the ones I've written down, but I will just bring it up. Okay, the Blues 15 penalties to the Jaguares 9. Or actually, sorry, did you see the tweet? But it's not Jaguares, it's Jaguares.
You got to huck it. Yeah.
Huck, yep. Which I can't. I'm sorry. Sorry to all our Argentinian followers and listeners. Lots of you watched the post-game analysis of this one. I'm sorry. Yes, my Jaguares is not a great pronunciation. And obviously also the yellow card for the Blues as well. Yes, discipline let the Blues down in this game. And to be honest, the Blues should have been yellow carded more. At the end of that first half, we had a penalty that the Jaguares decided to change to a scrum 5 minutes out. And they got another penalty, and they changed to a scrum. And they got another penalty, and they changed it to a scrum. They had some play. There was another penalty for offside, and they had another scrum. And they didn't get over. But in that period, we're talking about 4 or 5 penalties in a 5-minute period, and 5-6 minute period, and no yellow card. I think the ref was a tad kind on the Blues in that situation.
Yeah, definitely. It should have been at least another player. And like some comments were saying as well, it should have been. Oh, no, I won't say it should have been. It possibly could have been a penalty try and a yellow card as well. We've seen that quite a bit. You're a dominant force in there. It's not saying we haven't seen before from the referees. So it's a possibility that could have happened.
I think if they'd had a yellow card and then had to pack down with a back in the forwards, then we could have seen a penalty try. But they didn't get the scrum. The Blues didn't allow them to get the scrum moving because they would collapse it first. So you couldn't say that they were likely to get over and score a try. That scrum wasn't moving at a rate of knots towards the try line. And they needed to get it moving more for it to be a penalty try. Yes, yellow card. Totally agree there should be a yellow card there. But penalty try, I think people are forgetting what a penalty try isn't for repeat offences. A penalty try is for when a try would probably be scored and they never got that momentum to say they would probably score a try.
Fair enough. Yeah, okay. Could argue that, but we'll let it slide.
So yeah, no, it was a very wet game, and the Jaguares maintained all the possession territory. They played extremely narrow at times, which in this weather was good. But I was looking at it going, oh, you've got an overlap. Use it. Go on, use it. Even though I'm a Blues supporter, I'm a rugby supporter first. Stats, 91 passes for the Blues for 79 runs, 95 passes to the Jaguares for 113 runs. When you've run it nearly 20 more times than you've passed it, that's a lot of pick and go. So, yeah, that's they kept that one. There was a big shift by the forwards. I mean, I haven't brought the stats up here, but I remember going through the stats after the game, and you had all the forwards for the starting forwards of the Blues had made sort of about 10 tackles, and yet a couple of, like the winger hadn't made any, which showed you just quite how narrow the Jaguares played. They could have used their width a little bit more.
Yeah, but I guess in that sort of style of play and that sort of weather conditions, why not play it for what you know is going to work? And I mean, it did work. But as a Blues fan,
I'm not saying they should have spun it wide and played expansive rugby all the time. But one of the things we've been talking about during this season a lot has been presenting different pictures of attack to the defence to make them think. And if you do, you only had to do it twice in that game, go wide, and they could have stretched the defence so much more and made them think more. That's what I'm trying to say.
From your perspective as a Blues fan in this game, were you actually confident that they're actually going to win this game, the Blues?
Oh no, I predicted the Jaguares to win this one by 3.
Given the position in the match, though, say half time when they were leading.
Oh, the Blues can be 10 points up with 5 minutes to go, and I'm not convinced they're going to win in this at the moment.
You're never confident of a victory.
Absolutely, no.
That backs up my statement that they were chasing the game because they were never in control.
Oh, they were chasing the game in the last 10 minutes. Last 20 minutes, I agree. And they didn't know how to chase the game, especially not in those conditions. There was some woeful decision making by them. It was a mess. But fantastic for the Jaguares to have their first. I mean, we should talk about history here because this is history making. They first ever win over New Zealand Tide, first ever win in New Zealand. Massive for them, and could we even say a coming of age for the Jaguares?
Hopefully, I mean, it is huge. It's massive. It's like history making. There's not really anything more monumental than you can say than words like that. But yeah, it's great for them. I'm a huge supporter of the Jaguares and what they offer to the competition and obviously to World Rugby as well. But to get this step forward for them, I think is groundbreaking.
Yep. Into their adolescence. It's a bit like Teenage Groot for those of you who are who are Marvel fans. Yeah, they're not fully grown yet, but yes, Teenage Groot is what we have here after Baby Groot from the past 2 years. See, we're topical. It's great, isn't it?
No comment.
We're down with the youth. So, and then we headed over to actually the game that you couldn't stop talking about before we kicked off on the show. The pre-show chat was all about this. You said you had nothing to say about this game, really, but Brumbies downed by the Crusaders 8-21, pretty much what everyone expected, except for a second half where nothing really happened.
Yeah, I think you'd smack it on the head there. It's what everyone expected, and that's what the Crusaders do. They just do the basics well. They just execute. They play out their match plan, which I can't think of the word I was trying to say. But they play it out perfectly, and that's what they do week in, week out generally, unless they come up against like a big opposition like the Hurricanes, obviously what they've lost to. But against the Brumbies, a team I think which they had a perfect way of how they're going to play this game. Yeah, they did. But my reason for the pre-match sort of yarn that we had about this when I was looking through about points about this match I wanted to make out, the thing I really picked on here was with this Crusaders size. I think for the first time in quite a while we are seeing them almost stretched a bit with some stocks of players, which you normally associate Canterbury Rugby with a region and the Crusaders as a team that will just churn out someone. They lose a few players, someone always takes that spot. They bring in, unearth this new amazing talent. They seem to not really have hit that too much, and noticeably, I think, at fly half and in the centres as well, where they're really struggling. Obviously, having Mike Delaney in there is one short, not a bad player. Yes, but a very old player and a player that's probably not going to offer you much in the future, obviously. And Tim Bateman, who's been around for what seems like forever, but isn't that too old as a player. But I'm just surprised that these guys are getting regular game time now, when a Crusaders team of the past would have brought in someone, like a Harvey Lee last season or the likes of those. So, yeah, just saying I've observed the Crusaders, I think it's quite surprising that it's a bit different to the normal strategy or exposure that we're used to from a Crusaders team. It didn't affect them in this match either. I think they just come out and they just controlled the game over the Brumbies and did what they had to do. And that's what the Crusaders do.
The second half, they definitely did what they had to do, which was give away penalties. which racked up with a couple of yellow cards. And I'm not going to ask you the card count because everyone, you have to go watch Cornflakes or Steve's Cornflakes Crib is his YouTube channel. But check out his show because he'll tell us all about the card count and how it's going this year. So look out for his show. It's going to be coming out in the next couple of days. But yes, 2 yellow cards at the same time, and still the Brumbies couldn't get over the line. That's pretty poor from them. Let's be honest. But we're talking about new players coming through. Matuele. I mean, there's a player that has come through and I think has shone. Someone who we didn't expect to see get much, if any, game time this season.
Yeah, no, he's definitely come onto the scene, isn't it? And it's interesting. Israel Dagg can't seem to buy a break at the moment, can he? First couple of moments of the game, he just gets clobbered over the sideline. That high, but kind of late, but kind of early, but all sorts of wrong tackle. He can't catch, but
all sorts of wrong in a very clumsy way. I don't think Penny wasn't there to try and knock him out. He did knock him out, but that wasn't. Yeah, it was very clumsy by Penny. He deserved the yellow card. He was very remorseful straight away, and the first thing he was asking was, "Is the player okay?" I'm unlucky, but even more unlucky for Dagg, as you say. Not only did he get concussed, but he also did his knee in as he went down. So he's off the scans this week, and we'll find out how long he's out for again. But all the best to him and his wife who are expecting their second child. So that's a good excuse
to get injured. Yeah, so you can have his kid now.
Here I am trying to do all the kind of all the good, nice stuff of saying congrats and good excuse. No, he was always going to go home after this game anyway. He didn't have to get injured to get off tour.
His knee will be all right now, I can tell you.
Here we are trying to professionalise the show, and we're getting dearie me. Come on, let's start again. We would like to wish Mr. and Mrs. Dagg all the best with their new child and the birth. Hope it all goes smoothly and everyone is healthy and well. Come on, agree now. Don't just drink and. Oh.
Very much so. All the best to Mr. Dagg
and Mrs.
Dagg.
Absolutely, Mrs. Dagg more than Mr. Dagg. Mr. Dagg's going to stand there and hold her hand,
and baby Dagg.
Mrs. Dagg and baby Dagg are going to do all the work. Anyway,
sounds terrible.
Anyway, so
yeah, to move on from there now.
Yeah, Israel Dagg can't catch a break. Poor fella. Let's hope he's back soon. But as I say, you're right though. Delaney, I think has been playing decent, but he's shown up that Hunt is not the guy to take the Crusaders forwards. But and you got to say, should Marcy McKenzie have stayed at the Crusaders? Could this have been his big break? Could he have had 4 or 5 games on the trot at number 10?
It's kind of an ironic question, isn't it, for poor Marty? I don't think he's ever going to make it anywhere as a full starting Super Rugby player. He's all right off the bench, but no, I think there's definitely some talent out there should be looking to anyway, fill that hole, not Marty.
Because he was down there when last season, the last 2 seasons. But yeah, you're right. The loss of Richard Mo'unga has definitely been their biggest loss. He's back in training, I believe, so hopefully he's back soon. He adds that extra bit of spark that sort of frees up and releases players like Havili. Everyone's been talking about Havili not playing great this season, and maybe he's going to drop out of the All Black squad. Something we'll talk about tomorrow night, actually, on Hash Rugby Chat. So do dial in for that. Where are we at then? But yeah, no scores in the second half. We've got those 2 yellows for continued infringements. Actually, how did the infringements go on this one? I mean, 11 penalties to the Brumbies, 12 to the Crusaders. It wasn't a particularly. It was the timing and where those penalties were given away, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, the weird thing about all these penalties and the cards you're talking about before we started talking about Baby Dagg was it was strange because the Brumbies seemed to lose control of the game as the Crusaders got themselves more into the mire with the penalties and the yellow cards, and 2 men down, and they were making their way out of their 22 up to halfway with ball in hand. It's just bizarre that the team, there's just that much quality in that side, and then so many wise heads on a lot of young bodies in there as well, but on a lot of old bodies too. And I guess you put that down to the pack. They know what they're doing. And yeah, the Brumbies threw away massive chances to get themselves back into that game, albeit late on. You know, bonus points were sitting there if they got themselves a try. So they only really have themselves to blame.
Yeah, no, they should have come away with bonus point, try bonus point. It's, in that kind of sense, it was a poor performance by the Crusaders, and we've overrun. So, do we have time for the Bulls versus Highlanders?
Do we have time? It should have been this game the whole way through. Only game worth talking about.
So everyone, Steve wanted to talk about this game the whole time. So that means we're only halfway through the show. We have another 40 minutes to go. Bulls v Highlanders. I had the Highlanders by 7. I'm perhaps slightly over optimistic. The Highlanders won this one 28-29. Come on, how wonderful are the Highlanders, and how are they going to be useless next season without Sopwanga?
Hey, come on! I didn't want to talk about just how great the Highlanders were. I didn't want to talk about how great the Bulls were too, because I thought overall that was a really, really good quality matchup. Swings, twists, turns all over the place, lead changes, swaps all over the place as well. It was exciting. It was exciting. It was explosive. The crowd were, oohs and ahs as their team would go in and out, even though there wasn't many people there. But, the sort of thing developed by a game that is played at that level and is competitive between two teams. And neither side completely fell out of the game. Neither side completely dominated the game anywhere. But I will pick out one man for the Highlanders who I thought, I didn't think I'd be saying this, but Fletcher Smith. Goodness me, that kid has some wheels. Now, we've seen him playing at 10, which I haven't seen his wheels there at all. But man, at 15, it's like, I watched it. Yes, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning and I was not really 100% paying attention, but I just did look over and I just seen him screaming down the side. I thought, who the hell are they playing at fullback? Because that is fast. And yeah, behold, it was good old Fletcher Smith, and he was a standout. Got himself yellow carded as well. Had some really big mistakes. The ball bouncing off his foot, going to touch, some silly things. But man, in some places, he was absolute X factor and a joy to watch. Those silly things he did wrong didn't let his confidence drop. And kick chases, he was on it like a flash. It was a great performance by him. But I think credit to the Bulls too, who really brought a great game. And they have been brilliant this season as well. I think two teams. Both didn't deserve to lose that game, and to go down to the wire like that, just it was a bit heartbreaking for the Bulls to lose it that way, because I think they deserved something out of it as well. But a great game of rugby and just about match of the competition, I'd say.
Well, I'm afraid I only saw the highlights of this one, and from that, yes, Fletcher Smith had his moments of brilliance. The long range try with the great break from him in the first half, just after 4 minutes. But then falling over, fumbling the ball, falling over, tackling a player without the ball for a penalty try, and then getting the yellow card as well. Yeah, he's got some growing up to do, I think, at this level still. I mean, he's a great prospect, but he's still in that prospect stage.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely still in that prospect stage. But I think, like I said, the best thing about that was because he had such a good start to the game, scoring that great try right at the opening passages, the fact that he come back from that yellow card and just continue to hammer it at that high level, try and make that impact consistently, not go, I've made a bit of a boo-boo here, I better hide at the back, lie low, and try not to stuff up anymore. That was probably the most encouraging thing, the confidence and his ability to keep playing at that level. And that was the best part. I mean, it was great to see the kid, young kid, he easily could have just gone, that's me, I'm out, hide me at the back. But yeah, no, good to see. I was impressed, really impressed. It was great to see him actually rolling those wheels out, because boy, I didn't know he had those.
No, I mean, and Pollard was another player who perhaps showed more pace than we expect from him as well. Intercept try, and he got to, obviously an intercept try, all the other players are facing the wrong way and have to turn and chase you, but still, he showed the pace to get over, which was impressive. He had a good game because he also bashed over for another one, didn't he? Later on, so I think Pollard was probably man of the match. I don't know if half the Highlanders were facing the right way, because they played such an intricate and delicately, finely tuned, almost over-confusing play that half the team was facing every which way you could dream of. And I don't know if half of them knew what was going on, because it was just a little bit complex. You get to a point where you're just like,
maybe that's just a little bit too far when you're just playing tiddlywinks in the middle of the park with 3 guys in a circle. But yeah, Pollard read that really well. And yeah, he's got wheels. We know that as well. He's definitely shown them before. But South Africa are blessed at the moment, aren't they? You've got to say, with Pollard actually playing it so far, season injury-free. Willems are playing fantastically as well, young kids. And then you've got the Duprees and the likes of the Sharks and all those as well. So it is really looking good for South Africa this season.
It's an amazing turnaround from last season where you're like, okay, Ganches is clearly going to be the starting fly half, but who else is there to play from the bench? And it was like, well, nobody really. Bosch was very, very inexperienced. You had Lambie injured, you had Pollard injured, and they were scratching around for a fly half last year. Now they've got 4, maybe even 5 if you think Bosch is now up to it. That could all step in there. It's great to see that kind of turnaround for them. But how can it be 14-10 at half time when the Highlanders had 12% over the territory?
It's Highlanders' game plan, isn't it? It's the style they play. You have the ball.
Yeah, but 12%? That's even crazy on their standards. And one of the comments I put down here was, territory is not so important at altitude where you can kick goals from your own half. And Sopawanga was kicking them from quite a long way out. And you don't need to be pressurizing in the 22 to get those 3 points. You can get them from a lot further out when you're on the high veld.
Yeah, and I guess having a goal kicker like Sopawanga too, you have that comfort and you have that confidence, I guess, in the back of your mind, which I found very interesting after that match. Was Ben Smith in his post-match interview. I thought it was very interesting when they talked about that penalty kick that ultimately won the game. When the whistle went, he said all he heard, couldn't even see him. He just heard Lima going, I got this. That's all he said. And Ben Smith just walked away. That's confidence in your team. And Ben Smith just said, that's what I wanted to hear, because that's when I know he's got this. And I mean, did he ever?
Yep, oh, absolutely. He nailed it. Some crazy stats from this one. Penalties: 12 by the Bulls, 14 by the Highlanders. Penalties kicked: 0 by the Bulls off those 14. Of the Highlanders, 5 off those 12. I mean, this game was. How did the Bulls lose this?
I can't answer that question. I mean, that's what I said at the start. No one really deserved to lose this game. I think the Bulls really played a fantastic match, and you could probably put them up against 12 of the other teams in the competition, and they would have won it quite comfortably playing the way they did. And this is a game where it comes back to teams deciding whether they kick for the corner or they kick for the posts. And maybe this is one that definitely is. I mean, a 1-point margin, you've got to say, definitely is a game. That one kick would have changed this game, especially playing at Loftus, where the kicks were gone from 50 plus as well. So, yep, 2 great kickers, 2 different game plans, but you got to give the Bulls credit. I don't want to discount the Bulls here because they played brilliantly as well. And I think if the Highlanders lost that by 2, like it was as the full-time Hooter went, we would have been talking about the same thing about how good of a game it was as well, even though the Highlanders went down, could have gone down by a whisker. But yeah, overall, just equality by both teams and everywhere. It was good to watch. Yep,
and there was Brent makes a good point. Landers' defence was immense, especially at the end of that first half. There was the hooch had already gone. The Bulls were bashing away at the Highlanders line, but they held out, and in the end, that was one of the moments that decided this game. Along with kicking.
I tweeted out at the start of this match as well, and I looked through a bit more in depth of the starting lineup of the Highlanders, and I did mention that they had actually mixed this team up quite considerably. The team we'd seen from the Highlanders recently, we've seen the likes of Frizzell in the starting lineup, and in the front row especially had been given a big mix-up with those 3 starting. So I looked at the side and I thought, you look at this and you see a bench with a front row that's started their fair amount of games this season already. Ainley, Frizzell, Lynchie's on the bench. 3 guys who have started a lot of Super Rugby recently as well. Hamilton, who's been playing more and more minutes this season. Not so much him or Tompkinson, but I mean, that pack was a pack that had played a lot of rugby. And recently as well. These guys are starters. Like Frizzell's played the last 2 or 3 matches starting. So I thought this is interesting because it gives them a lot of fresh depth on the bench. And if these guys can start up and match this game for the start of the match or the first 60 minutes, whatever they bring their subs on at, is going to bring you an immense depth off the bench, which I thought was some pretty shrewd tactics that did decide, I think, a long way to this matchup as well. It was Dixon starting, Hunt starting. Dixon we haven't seen in the starting role for a few weeks now as well, coming back from injury. So I think it was clever. It was very well played, and it come off for them as well, having a depth of guys that are all quality of starting as well, which is what the Highlanders do. You know, they've got a squad of players who are around that same level, play as a squad. You got your standout key men, and then you got a team that play like a team, and they really delivered.
They did, and this is, I mean, Aaron Major had a horrid time at Tigers in England. It didn't go well for him at all, but yeah, he's showing his coaching skills now down at the Highlanders. As you say, making some good choices like that. We've seen it. We've seen other. We've talked about the coaching that they've come up with earlier in the season as well, and stuff they've done, and said, yeah, they're going the right way about things down there, as you'd expect. So that's it for this game. Unless you got any other more points to.
I won't go on anymore.
You won't go on anymore.
A fantastic Highlanders victory.
So, just very briefly looking towards next week. So, Aaron Smith, Ben Smith, getting on an aeroplane, flying back to New Zealand for the All Blacks camp. All a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah, it's not really what you want in the middle of a tour, is it at all? So yeah, it is. I don't know if you call it poor scheduling, but someone's going to get bitten by it, aren't they? Eventually, someone's going to be on the road. Unfortunately, it's it's the Highlanders who are away in the middle of nowhere. So, the professional players though, but it's going to definitely affect their fitness and just their being really fully 100% on for it.
Yeah, I think Aaron Smith and Ben Smith are missing next week. Apparently, the All Blacks are missing for the next weekend for the Highlanders. So. More experience for people like Fletcher Smith. He just won't have 2 other Smiths to pass to this time. And maybe that's what was leading to all that confusion. Someone just shouted, "Smith, take the ball. Give it to Smith." And everyone's like, "Which one?"
Just pass it till one of them runs, yeah. One funny thing from that game, though, I did after the match, I think it might have been this morning, there was Jesse Creel tweeting out about how a great match, blah, blah, blah. The game's never over until the fat lady sings. And then he said, on this occasion, the fat lady, and then he tagged Lima Sopawang in it. And I thought, that's class.
Oh, we do like a little bit of banter. It's friendly banter between them as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there definitely is between those guys.
Yep. So, cool. Any other points from the weekend do you think we should want to go over?
Not particularly. Not particularly at all. I think it was a pretty good weekend of action. Topped off, I think, at the end was brilliant to see. Worth staying up till hours we won't talk about again for.
Yes, you're crazy. Put bluntly.
Pay me and I'll do it all the time. Someone, come on.
I think if we're all getting paid, we're all happy to stay up and watch it. So there's no problems there. So yes, guys, do if anyone wants to sponsor and make Steve a full-time non-sleeper, then please go ahead.
I'm keen. I'm super keen.
He's super keen to sit in his racing chair that you can see there, and
comfortable,
Oh, cool. So thank you, everybody. Hit the old like button. But the one thing we are doing. Big push, please, folks. Hit the subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe too. We would love to raise the audience. That's our big push for the next few weeks. So please do hit subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And where can people hear about what the card count is in Super Rugby's, Steve?
Well, it's simple. Cornflakes, all you need to know. The channel's called Cornflakes Group. You can find me there on Twitter as well. YouTube is a place to find all the videos. Preview should be, I guess, in a day or two for the next round of action. We have the card count, of course, the Super Brew, where actually did well for once. So I'll be definitely talking about that as I raced up 9 places on the leaderboard. But yeah, all sorts of stuff as well. We've got some gaming going on. Going to have some topics of discussion coming up heading into international season as well, for those interested in that too. So keep your eyes peeled on that, and come and hit a like and a subscribe on my channel as well while you're smashing those buttons.
Cool, yeah, smash those buttons, as he says. Apparently that's what the youth say. So smash the old subscribe button, please. And also, you'll notice a little bell next to it as well. So if you actually want to get a notification every time I put out a video, then hit that bell. It obviously applies to all channels. And that way you'll get proper notifications. Otherwise, you'll just get them occasionally. Also, if you want to actually make sure you don't miss anything ever, then get an email into your inbox by subscribing to the mail list. It's in the newsletter. It's in the old notes down below. Thank you, everybody. I've been Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and you have been fantastic. Great to have you here again. I'm back tomorrow night with the #Rugby Chat podcast. I have Jess, Shane, and Ashwin on for that one, so it'll be a full house with lots and lots of chat.